Think of that choice you keep putting off. Just freeze the room for a second. Name the choice you keep delaying. Don't explain it, don't decorate it. Just name it in your head. We're diving into How to Decide. Now, How to Decide isn't a book about just feeling confident. How to Decide isn't about going with your gut to be right. How to Decide by Annie Duke asks a much colder, much more useful question. What exactly did you know when you chose? As Annie Duke brilliantly points out, the choice is actively consuming your options while you hesitate. Annie Duke isn't selling certainty here. She's showing us why certainty is often just a costume we wear to feel better. This explainer is all about inspecting exactly what you knew when you made your choice, way before reality came in and edited the tape. Act 1, the trap of delay. You know, I used to call hesitation wisdom. You probably do too. It feels sober. It feels mature. It feels safe. You tell yourself, look, I can afford only one real shot at this, so I need the absolute safest answer. Scarcity makes every door look final, doesn't it? Time is thin, money is tight, and one single mistake feels like a public tattoo. So you wait. You gather one more review. You ask one more friend. You rename your fear as mature research, but you do this until the window of opportunity just snaps shut. You can absolutely lose from a bad choice, but you can also lose while refusing to choose. Here's the reality slap. The habit of waiting actually becomes the mechanism of deciding. And the brutal part is that it's completely quiet. Nobody claps when you delay, and nobody actually calls it a choice. But waiting undeniably reduces your options. Then, ironically, having fewer options makes your waiting feel smarter under pressure. That loop is not caution, it's a trap with manners. That's why this book matters so much. It doesn't tell you to believe harder, it tells you to look cleaner. Act 2. Outcome is not a judge. Welcome to the second act. We really need to cleanly sever two concepts you probably keep welding together. A good decision can end badly, and a bad decision can end well. It sounds incredibly simple, right? But it's absolutely not simple when pressure and blame enter the room. Your inner expert voice might be saying, I need the safest answer, so I'm going to wait for perfect proof. I wish this weren't true, but let's walk that logic to its total collapse. If you need the safest answer, you need certainty. And if you need certainty, you basically need the future to report in early. But it won't. Proof only arrives after the decision is made. So you wait because waiting feels safe and no one can score it yet. But delay is a trap. It's a decision with no ceremony. You're just quietly spending your time, your attention, and your option value. This brings us to a massive concept in this book called resulting. Resulting is letting the scoreboard rewrite the playbook and calling the rewrite truth. Outcomes lie to us because they arrive with so much volume that they force our memory to literally rearrange the furniture. Picture a doctor who chose the exact right treatment, but the patient still got worse. Now picture a fool who drove drunk but miraculously arrived home safely. The outcome speaks really loudly in both cases, rewriting memory to reward lucky errors and punish smart risks. The outcomes shouldn't get the final vote. So here's our first big dilemma. Do you choose fast with thin data, or do you wait until the window closes? Look at those two paths. I want you to pick one. Keep in mind the pressure of scarcity. Pick a side right now. The crucial point here is that both options can be the exact same mistake. They both entirely ignore the price of uncertainty. A fast choice without a snapshot is just impulse. A slow choice without a deadline is just a K. Both ignore the core truth of this book. The outcome is a witness, not a judge. The so-called safest answer might actually be the one stealing the most from you. Act 3, the living boundary. Let's move to Act 3 and see how this builds into something we can actually use. Imagine a semi-permeable membrane. A membrane is not a solid wall. It lets some things pass through and actively blocks others. That's exactly what your decision process should be. Not a fortress, not a wish. A living boundary that filters pressure rather than just trying to block it out completely. To build this boundary, we use the decision snapshot. What are your options? What are your beliefs? What are the probabilities? What is the disconfirming evidence? And what is the actual cost of delay? We often tell ourselves this false belief that if the stakes are incredibly high, we simply must keep every single option open. Let's destroy that right now. If every option stays open, no option receives your full force. Keeping all options open just drains your attention and completely blocks commitment. It turns tomorrow into a storage unit. So instead of keeping everything open, ask yourself this incredibly powerful question. What must be true for this choice to make sense? This step isn't about predicting the future. The future is impossible to predict. The point is to expose the load-bearing assumptions. If the assumption breaks, the plan breaks. You don't need perfect sight. You just need honest odds. You're making uncertainty visible so it can be sized up rather than feared. Act 4, the choice after the choice. But what happens after you pull the trigger? Welcome to Act 4. It's a slate-gray reality that most people only prepare it to start a project. They almost never prepare a system for when to stop. Which brings us right into our second dilemma. Do you stay with a sunk cost, or do you quit at the first sign of pain? Think about how this applies to you right now. Do you keep funding a failing project because quitting feels humiliating just to save your pride? Or do you abandon it the very moment discomfort feels like proof of failure? The reality is, both of these reactions are flawed because they use your feelings as a scoreboard. One worships the money or time you've already burned, and the other worships the shock of pain. This is exactly where kill criteria and premortems come in. You have to define the exit before the room fills with smoke. If the cost rises above a certain line, we pause. If the metric stays flat, we stop. Make these rules when your pulse is low so you can actually use them when your pulse is loud. And then, I want you to ask yourself this truly surgical question. Did the choice fail, or did the world surprise you? Really sit with that. It cleanly separates your pride from the evidence. If the world surprised you, you just need to update your model. If the process was sloppy, well, then you repair the process. Do not confuse those two repairs, because that confusion breeds either sheer arrogance or self-contempt. Act 5, one clean rep. Okay, let's bring it all home. I want to guide you back to that exact choice you visualized back in Act 1, the one you've been delaying. Don't try to solve your whole life today. Don't try to build a cathedral. Just build one clean rep. Write the options. Write the assumptions. Write the downside you can actually survive. Then, I want you to say this out loud as your protective boundary. If it works, I will not pretend I was a genius. If it fails, I will not pretend I was a fool. This sentence future-proofs you from the toxic drugs of both triumph and shame, both of which will absolutely corrupt your next decision. This practice we're doing isn't about heroism. It's simply decision hygiene. We are asking for just one cleaner choice before the outcome starts shouting at you. A life is not built from perfect calls. It's built from honest calls reviewed without theater. I want you to head over to upgowise.com and access your growth map. The goal of this book and of this explainer isn't to make your life smaller. The point is to stop spending your life on unpriced fear. You are not the outcome. You are the process you repeat under pressure. Shift from being a victim of circumstance to the architect of your own choices. Choose before fear chooses. This is the decision. Name the next decision you will judge by process, not outcome. Make it now. If not now, not ever.